a huge FinOps X Europe round of applause for our speaker, Narciso Cerezo.
I couldn't think of a better room captain than Joe. Thank you, Joe. Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for choosing this talk. I know it's difficult to choose a talk, so thank you. My name is Narciso Cerezo. I lead the FinOps practice at BBVA. And today, I want to walk you through a brief story of why and how we started our practice by automating Chargeback to meet our finance department requirements, how we evolved that into Showback, but more importantly, the actions we were able to drive from that. And then we will come back again to Chargeback as a driver for action too, because Chargeback enabled us to radically change the way we purchase savings plans. And that is helping us also to drive action. Before we move forward, please, let me ask you, how many of you come from an engineering background? Okay, and how many of you come from a finance background? Good, but I see some hands that don't belong to either group. Don't fret. My goal today is that when you leave this room, you get home with an idea or at least the spark of an idea on how to improve your practice back home. Well, I am myself a software engineer, but I'm also a former entrepreneur. I was CEO of a small startup that had venture capital funding. That meant that we have like regular yearly financial audits and so on. So I had to learn how to read a balance sheet and the most common finance terms. And maybe because of that, when I heard for the first time about FinOps like 3 years ago, I immediately thought that BBVA needs to do this, and I need to do this. So I started evangelizing, talking to my boss, to anyone who would listen for that matter. And finally, like 2 years ago, I was granted a slot for a new team for building the FinOps practice. And the first member of my team is Ana Murillo. She comes from a long experience in BBVA finance, so I think we made a really good team. She's been instrumental for building this FinOps practice, and she should be here with me today, but she's been my mother recently, so she has better things to do. Okay, we miss you, Ana. Brief figures about BBVA, so you know the problem at hand. BBVA, for Spaniards, most Spaniards know BBVA as one of the major Spanish banks, but BBVA is really a multinational company. We have presence in many different countries, and we're also a very innovative company. We are a bank. Banks are sometimes not considered innovative. We are an innovative bank. We bet hard on technology and innovation. And when you put that into the context of the cloud, for us, that means that we're using the main 3 cloud providers, and we have like more than 20 billion accounts for the different cloud providers and different countries. More than 1,000 applications and platforms deployed on the cloud, and that turns into more than 5,000 environments. And I say accounts there, we will come back to that because I think it's really important. Well, how was our chargeback process before we started? Well, it was kind of, this was work for AWS. It was a simple process. I mean, we received a bunch of invoices for every billing account, and one of those invoices was the enterprise support, which is billed at the payer account level. We simply distributed that evenly throughout all the accounts. It's that simple enough. But we had to meet 2 rules from our finance department. One of the rules is that those 2 sums that you see there, the original charges and the charges for the different business units, must match to the cent. And we also had to do 100% chargeback. I mean, we couldn't leave anything there. Someone had to pay for everything. How we did this? Well, this was done by our engineers, by our architects from the Cloud Center of Excellence with the spreadsheets. Yes, with spreadsheets. So you can imagine they were not very happy about this. In fact, this was something that every month a different person from the team would do because none of them wanted to do this twice in a row. It was maddening for them. So they were quite happy when we said, hey guys, we are going to take this from you. How we did it? Well, bear with me, because before we enter that, when I was at FinOps last June, I had the opportunity to talk to many practitioners like yourself and myself to participate in short talks, and Chargeback came up often. And one of the things I noticed is that many of the practitioners were struggling to get not just to 100%, but to 8%. And thinking about that, I wondered how we were able to do that with the spreadsheets, because we were doing it with the spreadsheets. And I think that these are the three keys for that. We operate in a highly regulated industry. That's important. That means that the authority can come up at any time and say, hey guys, what do you have in the cloud? Oh, and this application, what data is this application using? What risks is it facing? What security measures are you putting into place to mitigate those risks? And you get the picture. So we had to have everything under control. And when you think that all those accounts that I mentioned before are handled by a single cloud team globally for all the countries and all the payer accounts, we had to minimize the amount of, we had to simplify how we did this. So we took, at the start, this has nothing to do with FinOps, but was actually instrumental for FinOps. We decided that one environment for a given application will be one account or project or subscription. And that, paired with the fact that every account also had to have one owner, meant that we could simply say everything under this account is the responsibility of that person in the organization. That has to do with the shared responsibility model. You had to simplify. What we did is that we took this chargeback, we put the information into the general IT distribution system, and if a given owner needed to do a fine-grained cost distribution, it was their responsibility. It still is. And that doesn't mean that we don't help. We help, but the responsibility is theirs. That way you can build incrementally and minimize complexity when you are starting. Now, some from the engineers, how we did this process. Well, we are Google Workspace users. That includes Looker Studio. We are also heavy GCP and BigQuery users. For us, it made sense to start here. So what we did is that we plugged information, well, from GCP is quite easy. You see it, you link the BigQuery tables and that's it. But for Azure and for AWS, we created the exports. We automated the exports for all of them, aggregating them into a single bucket. And then we put that information with cloud transfer into storage at GCP. And we do that in an incremental way, several times a day, if possible. So every day, we get incremental information. As you see, there's also a partitioning scheme there. That's important too, because at the BigQuery side, we're using Dataform. Dataform is part of BigQuery, and it allows you to build very simple pipelines for data analysis based on SQL. And it allows you to process data incrementally. So every day, you just process the delta of information that is coming. And that reduces also complexity. What we do with that is, after the analysis, we create BI optimized tables. That way, the Looker Studio or whatever tool you use is able to do queries that are faster and also cheaper, which is important for us. I'm not going to post a lot on this, but this is the owner view. The data is fake, of course, but this is the owner view, the main owner view for the chargeback process. They can see here a monthly accumulated report with the current month ongoing to. They have some details about the service they are using, and also the impact of the centralized reservations. We will come back to that later. Same information, but different view. This is for the finance guys. They have access to the invoices because they need to pay them. So they should see them. And they have also a distribution, but much more simpler, just with the cost center. Okay, you can take a picture if you wish. I was not talking about this really. I just wanted to point out 3 things about this. First, we are not yet using Focus for Chargeback, mainly because it lacks the invoice ID field. Hopefully, this will be addressed in 1.2 specification, and we would be able to do that, hopefully. But what I wanted to point out is that Focus, I think that Focus will drive not just the homogenization of the data, but also the process underneath, because we found that each provider does things differently. The cycle for invoicing, for refunds, the automation capabilities of every different cloud providers are absolutely different. And that's maddening for us because we have to integrate with all of them, and there are still some manual processes at the start of the cycle that we have to do. So hopefully, Focus can drive also some homogeneous behavior on the part of the CSPs to tackle this. Well, and with that, we are going to the Showback process. This was a dilemma we didn't face at the start, but you are facing it now. What we did first, we launched ourselves into getting a lot of information. Why? Because at the start of the practice, we were worried, we were concerned that our CIO would think that FinOps was a hype word. And we wanted to show this can give value to the company, this can produce results. So we focused a lot on thinking what might be important for us, this kind of resource. We have to get some information, very detailed information, more than comes on the reports, the cost and usage reports. And the truth is that this is useful, but it's not what is driving action. What is driving action for us in terms of Showback is the more simple Showback that you can get from Focus or the native reports. So my advice here for you is, if you're starting, start there. You can dive deeper then, but before you dive deeper, you really need to know what is really important for you, not just guess. In terms of the platform, you see that there's a small addition there. We did something more or less similar in all the providers. We, for example, for AWS, we used step functions with Lambda functions that will find out throughout all the different payer accounts, resources even, gathering all the information, and then put that information into the S3 bucket. So that flowed again into our data pipeline analysis. So it was quite easy in that regard. Well, this is the output of the first approach that we did. We have these KPIs, optimization KPIs. We have the optimization index, and that's useful. But I'll let you take the picture. Okay, this is important. And this is real information, by the way. This is kind of a almost empty account. A new account created with just the baseline landing zone template with the security and monitoring infrastructure. And you can notice that there is something that is eating almost all the cost. And there's nothing running really there. Something is eating all the cost. It's quite plain. And that's the VPC endpoints. I use this internally a lot. Yeah, because VPC endpoints cost 1 cent per hour. That's nothing. That's negligible. Nobody pays attention to that. But when you put that into the scope of the company, at the time we look at this, that was $1 million a year for the whole company. So we thought, we should pay attention to this and dig a bit deeper. And when we did that, we realized that actually 40% of those were actually not used. And for not used, we are using not a single byte in 3 months. Needless to say, we removed them. Well, $400,000 savings. Seems like a good amount of money. And it is, but the truth is that this was just the beginning. Why? Because we are now in the last stage, actually, of migrating our data platform to AWS. And in that context, that meant that we had to create more than 600 new accounts for our data scientists to work. We call that the sandboxes. And if we use this default template and this default architecture, we realized that that would be 4 million just in BBC endpoints. And by the way, 4 millions that were not planned in the business plan because we weren't aware of that when we created the business plan. So we needed to do something. The teams all put to work together, and they came up with a solution, a new template, and a central architecture that cost just $200,000 a year, a whopping 3.8 million cost savings. We avoided completely wasting that money. So my lesson here for you is that even though cleaning up is important, architecting for cloud and evolving your architectures beats workload optimization every single day. Okay, and finally, this is my favorite part. Chargeback as a driver for action. Okay, we were doing FinOps things before the FinOps practice, and we were purchasing savings plan and doing that kind of stuff. But the way we did it was optimizable. Well, we did the centralized purchasing, but that meant simply that our center of excellence would ask all the teams, what do you want to buy? And they took all the orders and placed a single order through the account team, and that was it. As you can imagine, some teams did a great work, but others didn't. So the thing here is that also almost nobody committed to 3 years. Most teams committed to just 1 year. And that led to bad coverage around the organization globally, and also to human errors. So there was a lot of things to do here. What we decided to do is turn this into aggregated purchase. What does that mean? It means that we are not asking the teams anymore, what do you want to purchase? No. We analyze their consumption of different types of infrastructure, and we send them a report. This is the infrastructure you are using. No money there, just usage numbers, normalized hours, and that kind of stuff. And we ask them, are you willing to commit to this level for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or whatever? And with that information, what we do is that we create a bunch of savings plans, not hundreds of savings plans, maybe 20 per quarter. And we do a mix of different kinds of savings plans, 1 year, 3 year, but most importantly, we are not purchasing that at the payer account level. That means, if you know how this works, if you purchase at the central account, you don't decide where the savings go. That's some things that the algorithm for AWS will do for you, and it will benefit the company. They will put the savings where it produces the best savings for the company as a whole, but regardless of the account that they are putting that. On top of that, that meant that if we pay at the payer level account, the payer level account is ours, it's not from the engineering teams, so we pay, and then we have to charge back them for this, because they are not paying in their own accounts anymore. We had this process in place, so it was kind of easy. So we just let AWS apply the savings, and then put that into the different owners. It was quite successful. I mean, like 6 months on the road, this is an incremental process. We were 64%, and already we raised the cost avoidance to 2.5 times per year. So it was a huge success, but it was something that we could improve. At FinOps X, I had many insightful conversations, but one of those, Amit is here, Amit, we had a very interesting talk there, and he pointed out rightly that even though the organization wins, you're not deciding, so you're penalizing the teams that actually help you, the teams that commit when you ask. So there was something we should do here. And the question is, must they really be penalized? The answer, of course, is no. We have an automated process into place. So what we're doing now is that instead of simply applying the saving where AWS says, no, we get all the savings into a big bag, and then we take that, and we apply the benefits to the teams that committed first. But there is always some money left on the bag. So what we do is that we apply that then to everyone, and we call that the FinOps luck bonus. Just being lucky, guys. But the action, you are wondering, and what happens to those that were so happy by receiving benefits they didn't deserve? Well, when they ask, we are ready and say, hey guys, help us help you. Okay, moving forward, things that we are now doing and need to do. In terms of chargeback, we have this currently running for AWS and Azure for most of the payer accounts, not for all of them. We are rolling that out. We have to roll that out also to GCP, and we are also moving into Focus, trying to help develop Focus so we can use that here at Chargeback. In terms of Showback, we are already working with Focus, and we are also in the process to use tags and metrics to provide fine-grained cost, because we are not using tags up to this. And well, we also, of course, working to improve with SaaS providers and private cloud, because finance teams are asking when they see the reports. And of course, we are also working to aggregate GenAI-specific optimizations to the reg optimization. But summing up, 3 concepts: one environment, one account, one owner. I cannot stress this enough. I think this is very important. Organizational awareness of the cost is also a driving force, but also being very aware that you need to evolve your architectures. This is not something that you put there and forget. And for us at least, a solid Showback process will allow you to drive innovation and also to drive action. Thank you very much.
Questions? Who has the first question?
Hey, hi, this is Vijay from Generali. So I'm also the lead of the Chargeback and the Showback processes, which we have implemented for multi-cloud organization using the AWS solution though. I have a question related to the RASP reallocation into the chargeback model. You mentioned that you give it back to the committers first. How do you define the committers, or where do you maintain these committers, and over the time, how do you manage the process? Because one-time commitment last year or a couple of months ago may change from the committers over the time. So how do you maintain that?
Okay. We asked the teams, we sent this report with the current utilization, and we are doing that quarterly currently. We asked them to commit. If you think, for example, for the first time, you are using, for example, 2,000 hours, normalized hours for this kind of instance. Okay, if they commit to 2,000 hours, when we charge back, we check with that if they are actually meeting their goals or not to drive the benefits. But in the second step, we will tell them, for example, you are using not 2,000 now, you are using 3,000, and your commitment level is at 2,000 for the next 9 months. So are you able to commit? So we are kind of piling these commitments, and the same way we are piling the savings plan. It's a rolling schema that allows us every 3 months to adapt. You can go down, or you can go up, depending on the actual usage of every team.
Is it maintained in a spreadsheet or based onto the tags or something?
No, it's based on a database. I mean, we collect the information with a small piece of software that we have developed for that. So we collect all the information and it's put in a relational database, and then we analyze that information correlated to the cost and usage reports or cost exports and so on.
Thank you very much.
Follow up on that question. So you've built a user interface to collect the commitment information that you store?
Very simple. It's a very simple user interface, but yes.
Very simple.
The user interface is simple. The algorithm is not.
Okay, so really nice talk. Thank you, Narciso.
Thank you.
I was thinking like, okay, you were saying, let's say to an entity or local unit, you say, this is your usage this month, okay. I guess that you have some kind of threshold to recommend them, for example, to purchase reservations for up to, let's say, 80% of production, for example. You have recommendations, but you don't enforce them, no? Something like that.
No, it's not actually a recommendation. I mean, what we inform them actually, it's a good question. We inform them actually of the value, the minimum amount per hour in a given time period. So we are being very conservative there.
The baseline.
Up to now, that's the baseline. So we are not the baseline is this value of minimum consumption per hour. So we're analyzing consumption per hour for every kind of infrastructure. And we give them that information. So that's their minimum.
And I guess you have policies such as, for example, in dev and test environments, you should try to shut down before any reservation, no? And only reserve on things that you cannot shut down, for example, no?
Yes, but every company is different, and our situation is a bit different now because, as I said, for example, we are moving our data platform into the cloud, and we know for sure that our consumption is going up. So we are focusing on having the right slice of infrastructure covered, because our coverage initially, as I said, was around tops 50% globally. Yeah. And with this, we are maybe at 70, 80%. It flows, but it depends. So asking your question, yes, but we are not overly worried now with that, because we know for sure that the consumption is going way up. But definitely, we are doing shutdown on weekends and so on for environments, for development environments.
And the last one, from your approach, I got that your focus is mostly on visibility, let's say, visibility of what's happening, no, on the costs and having the attribution of costs, all of that. Are you also preparing assets, global assets, such as, for example, recommendations, policies, what to do in each cloud service, how to use lifecycle policies in storage as you are growing, your data platforms are growing, you need to, these kind of advanced features, maybe engineering teams they have work that maybe some of them know, but there is no clear policy. Do you also work on those?
But at this point in time, we're not there yet. We've been focusing, as you said, on showing what everything is doing, on having a strong chargeback process. We are now moving into that. I mean, and we're working with our security teams in that regard, because it's very similar. I mean, our security teams have in place an architecture that has policies that will forbid you to do certain things in certain environments, and then they have also remediations, things that act on something. For example, you cannot put a Lambda function outside of a BBC. If you put that, a second later, a remediation will come and will delete that Lambda function. We are working with them to implement something like that, but for FinOps.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi. Thanks for the talk. That was very good. The question I've got is in relation to Showback and Chargeback. You kind of talked about how you try to structure everything around projects or environments in the cloud. You must have some shared services as well. I wonder how you maybe have implemented Showback and Chargeback on those, and what I'd be interested in hearing is whether you had to tackle that for anything other than Kubernetes, because a lot of that has been covered in the FinOps Foundation, but there's a bunch of other shared services beyond Kubernetes. Have you had to do that for those?
Okay. We have like two kinds of shared services. For example, we have networking services. Those are provided by our colleagues from the network department, and they have their own accounts. So we simply charge back them currently. We charge back them, and they integrate that into the bigger picture of IT at BBVA. I mean, you have charges for networking in the cloud, but you have also charges for networking on premises. So they are the ones responsible for distributing that finally if it's needed. So that's something we are not currently entering. You have to minimize the complexity and then incrementally add complexity to that picture. That's one kind of shared infrastructure. Then we have, for example, several teams that provide platforms that other teams use to deploy. For example, Kubernetes clusters. And for those, initially, we did the same. I mean, we simply charged them back the amount that was due on their accounts, and they were responsible for actually charging the customers if they needed. But now, what we are doing, we are moving forward using a mixture of tags and metrics, external metrics in a metric system, and we use that information to actually be able to slice those costs more fine-grained, and then we tie that back to our, we have a governance platform with kind of a catalog of applications for the whole bank, not just cloud applications. So we are able to tie back to that and drive the cost to the appropriate business unit for those bots running in our given Kubernetes cluster, for example. But this is something incremental that we are doing.
Hi, this is Karthik. I had two questions. One question was asked by someone. I don't know how you're managing the shared services, charging back to network team. My network team yell at me when I charge them. So my question is actually about anomaly detection. You mentioned about anomaly detection. How do you define anomaly and how you handle it currently?
Well, we're just starting with anomaly detection, but it's a good question because we do Chargeback on one side and Showback on the other. With Chargeback, we tell the teams they will be paying every month in their cost centers. With the Showback, we tell them what they are using, regardless of when or what they are paying, but the actual usage. And what we are doing right now is we are using machine learning algorithms over the Showback, what they are using, to notice changes in the patterns of usage of the infrastructure. And we are pushing that information. Currently, it's just an email. Hey guys, we detected that something changed and you're incurring into more cost. Is something we should worry about. But we are just at the start of that process.
Hi there. We're doing a data migration similar to what you're doing by the sounds of it. And I love the idea of one account, one owner. Is there anything you've done to kind of limit the duplication of data going onto the platform so that we're kind of not holistically paying more? Is that a problem you've faced at all?
Sorry?
With data migration and your one account, one owner principle, have you put anything in place to stop any duplication of data going on to your projects?
Replication of data?
Yeah, anything that you can give us tips on how to stop that happening?
I don't think that's a problem we are facing right now, at least at our level. Probably at the data platform level, they are facing that problem, but not from our standpoint.
So you might have applications that are speaking to another account where the data might live.
Yeah, but that's something that, of course, at the API level, they are calling one another. But in terms of, well, if I understood well, in terms of the data, that's something that is stored in every application. They are the owners of that. Besides the data platform. At the data platform, I'm not an expert in that, but at the data platform, we have a big data lake with all the information for different business units, and every team has access to that with profiling and so on. But this is not something that we are, as I said, that's something that we are currently monitoring which application uses that, because also many of the applications are running on premises when they use that information, not all of them are in the cloud. I don't know if I answered your question.
You look like you want to catch it. No? Okay.
Thank you. Hello, Bastien from Paris. Congratulations. So very simple question. What was the most challenging during this journey?
The most challenging? Well, I think the most challenge in this journey is currently being, for us at least, shifting left. Yeah. It's not something about Showback or Chargeback. I mean, all the things that we found in the process are minor things, so to speak. The biggest challenge for us is now shifting left in a way that makes sense, that integrates with the developer life cycle. Our developers usually don't want to go to another dashboard. So pushing that information to where they have to really act, which is the source code, which is the tools that they use for coding, that's complex. And we are trying to tackle that. That's our main challenge right now.
Hi, thank you for so interesting speech. I have a question. And do you have some savings plan for 3 years? And if you have them, how you know how it will be in third year? I mean, you create budget for 3 years. Well, how? Because previously we got it, but as for now, our management totally cancel it and tells that you have to provide strong prediction what will be in 3 years, because we have really values growing, unpredictable, spontaneous. So because of it, we don't have them at all.
So how we budget these purchases for 3 years?
I mean that 3 years really better, but do you have them? And if you have, how you predict what will be the usage in the end of third year?
Oh, sorry, I didn't get that, sorry.
Do you have savings plan 1 year or 3 years usage?
Do you have 1 year or 3 year service plan? Your commitment discounts
Yeah.
1 year or 3 years?
Yeah.
Oh. Our commitment discounts?
Yeah.
Okay. For 1 year and 3 years, how we mix that, or?
Do you have for 3 years or only for 1?
No, sorry.
It's okay.
We have both. We have a mixture of those. I mean, what we're doing right now is that we know for sure, as I said, that our consumption is going up. We know that as a matter of fact. We have contracts and so on. So what we did is that we initially, when we started this journey, we had this low coverage globally. So what we are doing is that we are purchasing part of that, actually without commitment from the teams. We were taking a risk there, but it was a very calculated risk. We purchased compute savings plans, which can apply to any kind of infrastructure in any region. So we are quite safe that that will be used, and it's 100% used so far. And on top of that, we continue adding small batches of 1 year or 3 years, depending on the type of infrastructure. For example, what we do there is, if a team is committing to a newer kind of infrastructure, we use specific plans for that infrastructure, because it pays out a bit more of discount. But if they are using, for example, an old version, in terms of AWS, for example, they're using a family, an M5 or whatever, we use compute savings plans for that, because we don't want to block their path to upgrade to new versions, because in fact we are trying to push them there. So we kind of do that mix of different kinds of savings plans and different lengths and in small batches every quarter. So your chance of doing it and failing is smaller, and you can also react in time.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you for the presentation. So I have a question on anomaly. Sorry. I have a question on anomaly. So with regards to anomaly, are you using the AWS native anomaly detection, or you have your custom made? And also with alerting when it comes to anomaly, like does your alerting engine take the start date or the end date of the anomaly? For example, let's say an anomaly starts today. Do you alert the user today as you say, hey, you have an anomaly, we think you should switch this off, or do you wait until the end date as you say, hey, you had an anomaly for 3 days, we think you should switch this off, or yeah.
Okay.
If you do have an alert engine currently running.
Sorry, but I don't hear it well, and the lights are blinding me out.
Sorry. Should I repeat my question, all of it?
The first question was?
Are you using native anomaly detection, or do you have a custom-made anomaly detection? Okay. And then the second question is, does your alert engine, the anomaly alert engine, take the start anomaly detection or the end anomaly detection? As you say, if there is an anomaly starting up today, do you alert the user immediately, or at the end of the anomaly, let's say 3 days later, that's when you say, hey, you had an anomaly for 3 days, should we switch it off? Is it too long?
Well,
Sorry.
I will try. I will try. We tried to use the anomaly detection from AWS, for example, but it didn't work out so well for us because it alerts at the account level or the service level, but not the mix of those. So, for example, if you put an alert on a service, you get an alert that the service itself is going up, and then you have maybe 20 or 30 accounts, for example, that are impacted. But the amount is the same for all of the accounts. I mean, you don't have the specific impact for every account. So it didn't work for us. So what we're doing is something much more simpler. Because we have all the information for all the 3 cloud providers. We have all that information there, analyzed, normalized. So on top of that, we use machine learning to detect the changes in patterns. And that means we do it only once. We don't integrate with the services for each provider. We just use that. But we are in our infancy in terms of anomaly detection. Okay? And we are pushing that information to the teams, but as I say, we are in the early stages there. We just push that information so the team is aware and they are answering back. But our plan there is to make it more actionable. So the team can actually answer with yes, this applies to me or not. But more importantly, if it's a real anomaly, we want to dive deep with the teams to find why the anomaly happened and what they did. So we want to create a kind of a knowledge base with that, anonymous. We don't want people to feel blame for that. It's anonymous, but a knowledge base so other teams can learn from that.
Thank you.
Time for one more question. Here we go.
Hi, Christophe from Paris as well. Very quick question. Did you develop your own tool to do that?
Sorry?
Did you develop your own tooling to do your Showback?
Yeah, we developed this tool from the beginning, and the answer for that is that when we started our journey, we really didn't know what we needed. So we didn't want to commit to a specific tool from the beginning. We preferred to experiment, to learn, to get a better grasp on what was a real predicament. And so we decided to start with this Chargeback process and Showback process because, well, kind of like the starting point for us. And we are now in a different stage. We now know what we need from a third party, and what things we are not willing to do ourselves. But probably Chargeback will still be done by us. I don't think that there is a tool currently that can do the same things that we do at that level.
Okay, and second very quick question. How many people do you have to build that tool?
How many people?
Yes.
We're a very small team, really. We are like 5 people in a global team. We have then local teams that help us. I mean, we started this practice with this central team that is now 5 people strong. But we also have local teams. For example, our data platform team has a FinOps team. Our GenAI team has a FinOps team. Our Mexico team has a FinOps team. So we work with them. So even if we handle this information centrally and there's only one source of truth, we work with these teams to help us improve the platform.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's give a big round of applause for Narciso. Thank you. Excellent, everybody.
Thanks for watching. Check out more FinOps X Europe content on our YouTube channel playlist. Like, subscribe, click the notification bell, and leave comments and questions for speakers to help our channel. We appreciate your support.